Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you very briefly about Prime Minister Modi's proposed visit to Maldives. He's on a two-nation tour, one to United Kingdom and one to Maldives. Basically, he's visiting two islands, one island which ruled the world for over 200 years, and another island which barely registers on the map. And I found it quite interesting to see that these two trips and visits are connected. Why is Prime Minister Modi going to Maldives? If you're watching the Indian press and most of the mainstream Indian media, well, they're portraying this as a victory for Prime Minister Modi's brilliant foreign policy that they have turned around Maldives. Anything and everything that happens is as a result of brilliant foreign policies by Prime Minister Modi. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is there's nothing much to learn from the mainstream media's coverage of this. So I thought I would dive deep into the details of why this is happening. And I found that it is very interesting that Prime Minister Modi is going to a country whose population is 550,000. It's like a small neighborhood in my hometown of Hyderabad. But what is also interesting is that its GDP economy is the size of Agra. So why does the Prime Minister of the fourth biggest economy in the world, a great power, a Vishwaguru, why does he feel to go on a 2-day trip to Maldives? I mean, he has time. Remember, this is the person who didn't have time to go to Pahalgam or to Manipur, but he has time to go to Maldives. What's the big deal? And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about in today's conversations. But before that, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. So first of all, let me tell you that I don't think that this is some kind of a major achievement by the Indian foreign policy or Prime Minister Modi. I think this is an achievement for Moizu, the president of Maldives, who has basically manipulated India since the time that he was elected. In fact, even before he was elected, he ran this campaign of India out. So he won on India out campaign. He became the president of Maldives by promising Maldivians that he's going to kick out India's military presence of about 76 soldiers who were there to help them fly the helicopters that India had gifted to Maldives. And he did achieve them. He met with Prime Minister Modi. He finally got Indians to replace the soldiers with civilians. But he also went to Turkey and China before he came to India, breaking with tradition where the newly elected Maldivian president always comes to New Delhi. Because Maldives is extremely dependent on India. It's a really tiny country, dependent on tourism, and a majority of its tourists often came from India. In some years, they were from China, but right now, until 2 years ago, it was from India. And for healthcare, even for drinking water, Maldives is dependent on India. So, what did Moizu do? So first, as I said, he ran this India Out campaign and basically cashed in on a resentment that was developing in Maldives against India and the policies of the Indian government. One of the examples that was cited was this whole promotion of yoga in Maldives was seen as an imposition of Hindu ideas and Hindu culture on a Muslim majority country. That is how some people interpreted that. In fact, there was some violence associated with the celebration of the Yoga Day. And then subsequently, there was all this attempt by Prime Minister Modi to promote Lakshadweep as a competitor to Maldives. And then you know what happened. The Maldivians began to mock Modi. They made a lot of fun of Modi. And then there was a backlash from India, and tourism to Maldives began to tank. But all that helped Moizu because in the subsequent parliamentary election, which at that time had a party which was very pro-India and anti-Moizu, Moizu's party, the PNC, basically swept through and won 66 of the 99 seats. They have an absolute majority. They can change the constitution whenever they want. So So it's safe to say, yet Moizu used this India Out campaign not only to win the presidency of Maldives, but also to win the parliament. And now he controls both branches of the government, or at least his party does. And of course, he has signed a military or a defense agreement with China last year, which gives China some privileges in the islands. So this pivot away from India was not just rhetorical; it is substantive also. But then in the last few months, we have seen that Maldives has been reaching out to India all the way. The Maldivian foreign minister has visited India several times, has met Dr. Jaishankar more than one occasion. Moizu himself has met Modi on more than two occasions. And now Modi is going for the National Day of Maldives as the chief guest. So what has happened? So this is what is happening. Maldives is an island with 550,000 people whose main exports are tourism. So basically, it needs to bring people there, and that's how it lives. It is actually the richest country in South Asia with a per capita income of $11,000. That's pretty rich. And so if you adjust it for purchasing power parity, it goes up to $17,000. Uh, even though its total GDP is just $6 billion. Now, that's why I say it is as big as Agra or Meerut in UP. So, but this country is in great financial trouble. Debt is over $6 billion. So, about in fact, interestingly, the debt to GDP ratio of Maldives is equal to the debt to GDP ratio of the United States. So it is in economic trouble. It has high public debt, which means that the interest payments are very high, but because it's not a powerful country, it pays literally about $600 million or something per year on just interest payments. Uh, and because the tourism is down and because there's now environmental issues which are beginning to plague Maldives, its income is down. So every year there's a big deficit of about 10% in the budget. Around 9% of the budget is a deficit budget. So it's spending about roughly 9% more than what the revenues are coming. And so how does it compensate? It has to borrow. So it's borrowing money for basically running the government, but it has also borrowed money for large infrastructure projects like bridges and housing, etc., which has not generated revenue. So, for example, if you borrowed money to build a hotel or a very fancy some kind of a park which would attract tourists, then it generates funds. But if you uh, borrow a lot of money to build housing for people, and that's not going to generate foreign exchange and revenue and contribute to the GDP, even though the production will contribute. While you're making those buildings and apartments and housing, etc., that will contribute. So, because of three or four things, because of the climate change, because of the high debt, because of the deficit financing of their revenues, they are in financial trouble. They are struggling to pay their payments. They are in a very similar situation like Pakistan, where because the debts are high and then all the debts have to be repaid in foreign currency, they are also having problems with their reserves. Their debt, like I said, is about $5 to $6 billion, but nearly half of it is to India and China. Uh, and and that is the key. In Maldives owes India $124 million, which is not much compared to China. It owes China $1.37 billion. There is no way that Maldives can turn away from China without paying that debt. So every day, every year, the president of of Maldives has to appeal to the Chinese, saying, "Can you please give us a relief? Can we pay less of the interest burden? Can you give us, roll over some of the debt that we have to return?" So there are two payments you have to make. You have to make payments about the principal as you return it, and then you have to pay the interest on the loans. And so you have to constantly keep rolling it over. They have tried to raise money in the Gulf, but surprisingly, there was no money coming in. I thought that places like Dubai would be interested in extending, like a tourism stuff with Mole, but I guess see it as a competitor. So they are in a financial trouble. That is the biggest problem with Maldives. So it's struggling to basically survive at the level it is, and like I said, the quality of life is pretty high at $11,000 for a developing country. Uh, so this is what the president of Maldives has done. First, he reached out to China and gave China what it wanted, which is basically a defense understanding, which means that all the investments that China has made in uh, in Maldives through the Belt and Road Initiative. Maldives was one of the first countries to sign in 2014. It is a member of China's BRI. So all the projects that China is building a harbor, is building a bridge. All of these things are dual purpose, which means they are commercial, and eventually they will serve China's military interests. And it is part of China's string of pearls. So all the, like Gwadar, Male, Hambantota, and then the one in Bangladesh. So they're trying to build a string of pearls of ports, which will basically encircle India strategically and militarily. So it's a bigger security threat to India. So China has that already. And so this India out made Chinese very happy. But the Chinese are now not happy with Maldives because they feel that Maldives has borrowed too much money and is not able to pay back their loans. So they are unwilling to give them more loans. And that is where India has cashed in the last 1.5 years. The unwillingness of China to basically waive interest payments or push them forward, or to give more loans of a higher magnitude as they did, because they've already invested $1.37 billion and they don't see their money coming back. So Maldives has nothing to offer more to China. And so it has turned to India, and India is now trying to win back Maldives from China. I'm not very sure it is going to be successful because look, the Chinese investment slash loans to Maldives is 10 times that of India, or more than that. India has loaned them only $124 million, and China has loaned them 137, sorry, $1,370 million. That's huge. That's nearly 11 times uh, what India has loaned them. So what has India done in the past few days? India has increased the quota of things that can be exported to Maldives. There were some restricted items. India has relaxed that, especially on food stuff, etc. Second thing that India has done is given them a total package of 500 million US dollars. $100 million is a grant, plus $400 million are concessional line of credit. So they can borrow money and the guarantees are coming from, it's like they're co-signing a $400 million loan. So India is giving them $100 million. That's the big gift, a grant. And then it's saying, okay, you can borrow $400 million more and we will co-sign that loan. They have also given them a defense line of credit of about $50 million. And they have done something that is called as currency swap. And the currency swap is pretty large amount of about $757 million. Now, the currency swap is something where if you are short of foreign currency, like you need to pay back to the World Bank or to IMF or to China, and they say, pay me in dollars, and you don't have the dollars, or you don't have that many reserves, and you could get into a default situation with either IMF or World Bank. Then what a foreign country can do to you is say, okay, you know what we're going to do? We will put dollars in your bank account. You shouldn't spend it, but you should keep it in your bank, but you at least have some dollar reserves in your bank. And so that kind of saves you from defaults. So the Maldivians, basically what has happened is India is trying to buy back the friendship of Maldives that India enjoyed until India out strategy. Clearly, there is an element of humiliation for Maldives, because at first they said India out, now they are so desperately seeking India's assistance, but they are playing it. They are playing India because they have also, tried to reach out to Turkey, and also tried to reach out to Pakistan, and of course China. So India, in order to keep more deeper involvement of Turkey and China and Pakistan in Maldives, is essentially doing all of this. And of course, in exchange for that, Modi gets a photograph that he can use to shore up his domestic support and popularity. Like I said, he doesn't have time to go to Manipur, where there is a civil war going on and hundreds of Indians are dying, but he has time to go to Maldives, a country which is of the size of Meerut. It's like saying he can go to Meerut but not to Manipur. But nevertheless, I think that this is not a big achievement for Indian foreign policy. This is a situation in which Maldives finds itself in a debt trap. And so it cannot escape. This is not a pivot away from China towards India. It's like saying that I'm with China, but now I have India in my pocket too, because India is now giving me money for nothing. What does Maldives offer to India? Is this that I'm not going to get more involved with China. This is what India is buying. Don't get further closer to China. That's all, because it's already very close. 40% of its national debt is to China. It owes China 10 times more or 11 times more than what it owes India. So its commitment or its connection to China is already way more stronger than it is to India. But Maldives in 2023 was in a this or that situation where, in order to keep China, it had to pivot away from India. But in order to get India back, it is not having to pivot away from China. And I think that is the point that everybody in the Indian discussion are missing, because the goal there is not to promote India's national interest. The goal is to promote Prime Minister Modi and his image among the followers, basically by the Godi media and others. So I think this is something for you to keep in mind. And I have this, you can take a look at this infographic that I generated about why the Maldivian economy is in trouble. And Maldives is, I think, very deftly handling its diplomacy, where it is keeping China as well as gaining India. So that is an interesting development in the region. So thank you for watching Khanversations. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and press the bell icon. And for those of you who are members of Khanversations, don't forget to join our Zoom meeting on Sunday, the 27th of July, 9:30 p.m. India time, 12 p.m. New York time. Thank you very much. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.